This material is not an offering, recommendation, or solicitation of any offer to buy or sell the securities mentioned or discussed, and is to be used for informational purposes only. Any performance results discussed herein represent past performance, not a guarantee of future performance, and are not indicative of any specific investment. Hey guys, coming at you today with probably the most important video I've ever made here concerning all this stuff. So you guys want to know why your stocks are dropping on the OTC market, pink slips, why those stocks are dropping for no discernible reason? Why did HCMC fall off the planet? You want to know why? Well, it's easy. They're counterfeiting shares. Let me explain it to you in this video here. And also at the end of the video, I'm going to be talking about how you can make a difference in stopping this practice, so you stop losing money out of your shares needlessly. And this has happened to over 400 stocks in the past month. In the past 3 weeks, there's been a huge drop off in these stocks. And for no other reason than the counterfeiting of shares, which is naked short selling. And they have different names for it, but all it is, they're counterfeiting shares, and it's the DTCC and the hedge funds, and in cahoots with a group of other people. But I'm going to go into all that now. So the illegal, and I'm going to be referring to some charts also, and so you guys get an idea what's going on, and I'll include those charts at the end of the video so you can take a look at them. Okay, illegal naked short selling and stock manipulation are two of Wall Street's deep dark secrets. These practices have been around for decades, and this is how, in many emerging companies, approach the stock market for funding. And they get that, but when these short sellers come along, then they're not interested in building up American enterprise. They're interested in profiting from when companies go down. And naked short sellers themselves are doing it without any risk at all. So that's creating a huge problem. And this affects a lot of the people because people's mutual funds, IRA, retirement plans are involved in this sort of thing. And so the public rarely knows when the pocket's being picked. And unexplained drops in the stock market price are chalked up to market forces when it's often market manipulations. Now, the stocks most frequently targeted are those emerging companies who went to the stock market to raise up capital. And basically small businesses, small enterprises that employ people are the ones that are being targeted here. And a successful short manipulation takes money from investment in American enterprise and diverts it to feed Wall Street's insatiable greed. Now the company that was attacked is worse off, and the investing public has lost money. So what they're doing is by counterfeiting shares and then profiting from those shares when they go down, is basically taking money directly out of the shareholders' value, and that's where it's gone, and it ends up going through different shell companies, and to avoid, and tax havens to avoid taxes, and then it ultimately winds up in some hedge fund billionaires' pockets. Now, who are the players here? A lot of this information can be found at counterfeitingstock.com. That's where I've gotten a lot of this stuff, and you should check out that site for a much more thorough discussion, and also a how they do it sort of thing. I'm not going to go over the how because it's too complicated and to go over in this video. So basically, hedge funds are the main players, and they're really unregulated investment pools for rich people. They've grown exponentially in the past decade, and now there's over 10,000 hedge funds and manage over $1 trillion. They don't register with the SEC, are virtually unregulated and frequently foreign domiciled, yet they are allowed to be market makers with full access to all naked shorting loopholes, and which they often create secretively and collusively. So I gotta refer to some other stuff here, guys. And the other people that are involved in the market makers, there are brokers or a dealer or a hedge fund who makes a market in a stock. Now, in order to be a market maker, they must always have shares available to buy and sell. Market makers get certain sweeping exemptions from SEC rules involving naked shorting, but they profit from it. The short seller and the Depository Trust Clearing Corporation, known as DTCC, it's a privately held company, is owned by the prime brokers, and it clears, transacts, and holds most stock in this country. So DTCC clears all the stock purchases, sales, and all that stuff, and they are involved in the counterfeiting of shares. So the hedge funds and the market makers and the DTCC are the ones that are counterfeiting these shares. So it's now the counterfeiting is done by participating prime brokers, the DTCC, which is owned by the prime brokers, and there's been a lot of lawsuits that have identified certain prime players as Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns, Citigroup, Merrill Lynch, UBS, Morgan Stanley, and others. And frequently, the profits are laundered through banks and a number of tax haven before tax shelters before it ends up in counts in New York, New Jersey, San Francisco, etc. And we're talking about hundreds of, we're talking about millions of shares every day, hundreds of, possibly even billions of shares over a couple of weeks or a month. So, and now these are hidden as, fails to deliver, SHO exempt, etc. But it's all the same thing. It's all counterfeiting. That's what's going on, guys. So they counterfeit stock, and then if it goes down, they sell it off, and then they get the profit. And that is removing all this money out from these companies' hands. Now, how a short attack happens is what you saw over the last 3 weeks. It is a coordinated and a business plan that's carried out by a collusive consortium of hedge funds and prime brokers with their help with the friends at the DTCC, and the SEC just turns the other eye. This is illegal. It's illegal, but the SEC allows it to happen because, they're controlled too. So now, what they do is they target potential companies, and they're identified, analyzed, and prioritized, and then they're attacked. And the plan consists of taking a large short position, then crushing the stock, and if possible, putting the company into bankruptcy. Now, when it's time to drive down the stock price, it's a blitzkrieg is unleashed against the company by a cabal of short hedge funds and prime brokers. And the playbook is very similar and what happens and how they do it. So if you want to know how they do it, go to counterfeitingstock.com, and there's a much more detailed explanation. But basically, they flood the market with counterfeited shares, which drives down the stock price. That's how it's basically done. Now, who's the winner? Well, they all are. Well, what do you know? The people that short the stock, they win 90% of the time because this is a coordinated attack, just like you saw in the last 3 weeks. That's why HCMC and all these other stocks collapsed. This is why. Now, the prime brokers, of course, they all make money. They're the ones counterfeiting. They're the cornerstone of the fraud, and so is the DTCC, and both of them get commissions. Here's prime brokers get commissions and interest on the margin accounts. They charge the shorts interest on borrowed shares, and this can be as high as 5% per week. And they're making between $8 to $10 billion a year from this short program, just from naked shorting. And that's just the prime brokers. The DTC, kind of the same thing. They charge interest on borrowed shares, and they're the ones that move the shares and everything. And they get profits from doing that, and then they're looking at billions of dollars in profits also. And so before we go over, let me go into a little bit more detail of what this stuff looks like. And if we look at Max Sound companies for the short positions in December, December 2nd, here, you guys, I gotta expand this a little bit. So December 2nd, here we go to a big day here. And November 25th, there was 17 million shares that traded hands on the 15th, and 14 million, almost 15 million was the short volume for that day. And that short volume consisted of 83%. November 22nd, 3 days later, 2.3 million shares changed hands, 2 million shares were shorted. That's a 91% of the shares that traded hands were counterfeit short stock. It's all counterfeit. And then you go to November 4th, 12,300,000 shares changed hands, 10.8 million, or 87% of the volume is counterfeit short. So I'm going to include some graphs here so you guys get an idea about what all this is and what's going on. But the question is, what can you do? All right, well, here you go. So what you do is you contact your CEO, the company that you own that went through the floor the last 3 weeks. You call him up and tell him that he needs to get in touch, or he or she needs to get in touch with Greg Halpern, CEO of Max Sound, because he has a plan. He's starting to put everyone together, going to do a class action lawsuit. We're suing the SEC, DTCC, and the money and the market makers. those and the short hedge fund billionaires and the hedge funds that do nothing but short stocks, which there's plenty of them now. Now you contact them. Greg is putting this class action lawsuit together. He's got people that are funding it. So what you need to do is contact your CEO, whatever company you invested in that's gotten collapsed over the last 3 weeks, and tell him to join and contact Greg Halpern, CEO of Max Down, and get something done. You guys want to stop this BS market manipulation? That's what they're doing, and that's how you stop it. There's your answers, guys.